am Llewellyn King, co-host of MECFS Alert here on YouTube. It is my long-held belief that it takes just one person in so many situations in life to make all the difference. Often in business, it's one person that believes in an idea. In love, of course, it is one other person. And in politics, it is one person. In medicine, it is often one person. And in public policy, pushing a debate forward, it is invariably one person, which is why I think we should take a minute on this program to salute the work of Courtney Miller. Courtney, along with her husband, Bob Miller, who suffers from MECFS, have been tireless in pursuing the president. A little over a year ago, in 2011, at a town hall meeting, they really cornered the president, and he promised that he would look into their concerns with what was being done at the National Institutes of Health on chronic fatigue syndrome. Well, they were getting frustrated, and when I interviewed Courtney out in Nevada not very long ago, some of that frustration was innocent. And suddenly, President Obama has come through for Courtney and for the whole community. He has directed his Deputy Chief of Staff to be a point person. Her name is DePaul, Ms. DePaul. She's a very important person in the structure of the White House. She was the point person on the Affordable Care Act. She is not some bureaucrat who will issue a report. She is, somebody who gets in there and puts her toe to the dirt. This is not a cure. This is not a giant refunding, but is the beginning of a refunding, possibly. And it is the beginning of a higher profile for this ghastly disease. And we should be grateful to Courtney, an individual, and to the president, an individual, and we shall see where it comes out. But for once, there's a little good news in a sphere in which good news is very rare indeed. Here is that earlier interview with Courtney Miller, a difference maker. Hello, Llewellyn King here for MECFS Alert. I'm in beautiful Incline Village on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe at the Cimarron Clinic, where Dr. Dan Peterson has been treating patients with CFS for more than 25 years. The Cimarron Clinic is fairly recent, but Dr. Peterson has one of the largest accumulations of patient data that exist for this terrible disease. I have in my hand an extraordinary photograph of President Obama at a town hall meeting in Reno about a year ago. He's got his hand on the shoulder of a young boy, and another young boy is smiling. And in the photograph, you may recognize, with a beard and glasses, Bob Miller, who was on this program also about a year ago. With me is Courtney Miller, the wife of Bob, and you actually got a question about CFS to the president, and how did he respond?
Yes, well, so I was honored to be able to ask the question, and it was really about the meager amount of funding that the NIH dedicates to CFS research, and he made me a simple promise. The president said he would go back to the NIH, ask them what they were doing, and ask them if they would do more for the illness, and I have spent the last year trying to follow up with that promise and learn what the president learned and whether the NIH will in fact do more for this illness.
And you haven't had a word back?
No.
Even the President of the United States has not succeeded or has not done what he said he would do?
Not that I know of. And that promise was very important to my family, to my children.
Now, your husband, Bob, is the one who has chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yes, and he's had it for more than 20 years.
And he came out of a very physical life. He was a miner, I believe.
Yes.
And to be felled with this disease must have been devastating. When you got married, did you know that he had chronic fatigue syndrome?
We didn't know what it was. I knew he was ill, and after a long quest to be diagnosed, he learned the name, and we did our best to research what we could and find him the best care we could, and that brought us to Incline Village and Dr. Peterson.
How is it living with somebody who has chronic fatigue syndrome? When I wrote an article, I used the phrase that spouses and lovers drift away, and I got a lot of very sad emails which said, yes, that's true. How is it living with somebody who has this difficult, unpredictable disease?
Well, it's very difficult, but it has not driven us apart. It's hard. There's a lot of support. Mostly, we long for our boys to have the best of their father, and so there's a serious limit on the activities that he can do with Dan and Alex, and so that's the most.
Do you worry about the boys contracting the disease? There are families where it's been passed on. In fact, I have a lot of emails from families where it's been passed on, and with a lot of sorrow and guilt when it has happened.
We're concerned. We try to live as normal a life as possible, but we're very conscious of not sharing, food or drinks, and doing our best to keep any potential. We don't know, since we don't know what caused it, and so we can be careful and as smart as we can be, and ultimately, we're blessed and so thrilled that they're healthy.
And they're very appealing. Their names are Alex, and I forget the second.
Daniel.
Daniel. Which one is which?
Alex is the dark-haired.
With the president's hand on his shoulder.
That's right. And Daniel's the blonde one. They are twins, so they look very different.
They look very different. They're not identical.
They're not identical. They have, parts of me and parts of their dad, and they're different in each of them. So.
And you're a director of Cimarron.
Yes, I am.
And that came about, obviously, through Bob being a patient of Dr. Peterson.
Yes.
And what does the director of Cimarron do?
Well, we're working hard to identify the scientific studies that we need to bring some answers and some treatments. I think it's an incredibly exciting time. There's new discoveries, new trials. The trial of Rituxan.
Rituxan is the Norwegian anti-cancer drug, which has had some beneficial effects.
Right, which is highly suggestive of an immune problem, whether it's autoimmunity or immune reaction. The fact that drug is having some results in whatever the population.
Which of these cutting-edge drugs has your husband been on?
He's in a drug trial for Ampligen, and he was on it 12 years ago when they started the placebo-controlled trial. He was off of it for some number of years. The medication clearly worked for him for a significant period of time, and had residual effect, and he went off it, and
May I ask, what was the residual effect?
Oh no, meaning that the benefit was lasting.
That, sorry.
After going off of it, the benefit lasted for a few years, and then the decline, we could watch it, we could see it coming again. And so we had to move our family back to Incline Village. We live in Reno, and back to Reno in order to continue the treatments. And there's certainly a condemnation of the ability to have a medication, but that it's not widely accessible because it has yet to be licensed.
It's very poorly accessible.
It's not accessible. I mean, we're the lucky ones. we had to move our family to access it, but we're the
Why
lucky
do you
ones
think
who
there
can
is
get
not
it.
a great bellow of rage across this country over the fact that here is a drug that works and it's not been approved by the government after years and years of testing and no proven bad side effects or no catastrophic bad side effects?
That's right. And there is rage among a patient population that is extensive and has been neglected.
What is the excuse or the rationale of the Food and Drug Administration?
Endless changes in study designs, endless requests for additional information. I mean, this is a medication that patients have been on for 20 years. It's been tested in chronic fatigue syndrome for 20 years.
Is it available in other countries?
Not that I know of.
So you don't have health tourists seeking it else. There are other therapies that people have tried overseas, not always with much success, I might say, with my experience. But
yeah, I don't know the status overseas.
But you do have at Cimarron and in general a feeling that we're on a cutting edge, that something good is going to come soon.
Absolutely. I think the tools we have now to study the immune system and the immune cells and natural killer cells and the hallmark findings of chronic fatigue syndrome are they're making biomarkers within reach. And Cimarron is doing the work to find the scientists throughout this country or overseas who are willing to study.
So the hope is that in a predictable time or in a not too distant future, there will be more therapies, not necessarily a cure, but more therapies.
Absolutely. That's the ever guiding hope, but the reality is there's some real progress in the last few months and the collaborators that
Are you still hoping that the president or his people will get back to you?
I have faith that the president will live up to this promise. I want to know that he has.
Courtney, thank you so very much.
If you would like to sponsor MECFS Alert, please contact us at mecfsalert@gmail.com. Help us to help you.